from right here in Tallahassee. Grew up on the south side of town with the Rickers and all of that. But at an earlier age, I was always interested in music and stuff. Like most young kids, I wanted to be a rapper, right? You know, and tried that, but I had met a guy who had a recording studio here in town, and I went to him to rap for him because I thought he could put me on, you know what I mean? So one of my friends was like, you should go check this guy, he's got a studio, you know, you rap and all of that, and see if he, you know, can do something for you. So I went over there and I rapped for him, and he didn't think my rap was really that good, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool, whatever. But behind him, I could see all of this recording equipment and stuff like that. Like, he had a studio, and I was young, and I looked at that stuff, and I was like, man, this looks really cool. You know, you might not think I can rap, but, you know, is there any way I can come learn some of this stuff, or, you know, you teach me or whatever? And he agreed to that, and actually his name, some of you may know him, his name is Elbert Griffin, with Strong and Jones, his mother, Miss Lynn Ann, her son. And so I started going over there to their house like every day after school. And Miss Lynn Ann, it's crazy because I would be there till like 3 in the morning making noise, you know, down in their basement and stuff like that. And they would let me do it every day. And so I learned a lot about recording, audio, and all that kind of stuff. And that's where I really got the passion to be like, okay, maybe this is something I want to do, because I love music. At first, all I knew was rapping. Like, that's all I thought you could do with music, right? But then I learned that there's other career paths and stuff like that. So EG told me, you know, that this thing that I was doing was called audio engineering. I didn't know none of that. And so from there, he told me about the school that was in Orlando called Full Sail. And he was like, you can go to this school and learn and get a degree in it and all of that, and, you know, you can really learn how to do this for real. So I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. He took me down to Orlando to take a tour of the school, and so I went down there and I was immediately sold. Anybody who's familiar with Full Sail know that they have like real studios at the school. So like, you know, for somebody like me, I'm looking at it like, man, I would love to really learn the real tools to do this one day. So I enrolled at Full Sail, and right out of Rickards, I went straight down there because I knew, you know, I felt like I knew what I wanted to do. And yeah, so I went to Full Sail, learned a lot of stuff, and from there, I wanted to come back to Tallahassee to do music, but at the time, I didn't know anything in Tallahassee. Like, there was a real music thing going on, so I was like, maybe I'm gonna bypass Tallahassee and I'm gonna go to Atlanta, right? So I moved to Atlanta, and that's where I started my career professionally. I started out at a studio in Atlanta called Patchwork Recording Studios. And Patchwork is a legendary studio in Atlanta. They've been around now about 28 years. Another great thing I love about Patchwork is it's black owned. And anybody you could possibly think of in the music industry has been to that studio. Anybody. You go down the halls, there's plaques and stuff everywhere. So when I went to Atlanta, I literally just went on a hope and a dream. I didn't know anybody in Atlanta. I didn't have no money, nothing. I was a young 20-year-old kid, you know what I mean? And somehow my grandmother let me go up there, you know, and I didn't know nothing, didn't have nothing. I convinced her to make me do it. Also, as I tell this story, I want to shout out my auntie back here, Abigail. She knows this story because, you know, they always was wondering, like, Adrian, what are you doing with your life? You keep chasing this music, and we just don't know if this is gonna work, you know. But I always did. This is all I ever wanted to do, and I always chased it. So when I moved to Atlanta, I wanted to work at Patchwork. I didn't know how to get into Patchwork though, because it's this, you know, this major studio. How do I get into this studio? So I had an idea. I decided I would do a studio tour. I booked a studio tour. And so I booked a studio tour, and they showed me around. I'm acting like I'm gonna spend some money or something, but I'm not, because I don't got no money, right? And they showed me around, and on my way out, I was like, I pulled out my pocket a little resume that I had from Full Sail. And I was like, hey man, I just graduated Full Sail. I'm trying to get a job or internship anywhere. Like, if y'all can help me get this to whoever this is supposed to get to, man, it'd be everything, right? And so I gave that resume to the guy that showed me around. I really didn't think nothing. I didn't think he would give it to nobody, honestly. I thought this was probably the last time I'll be in this building. But luckily, about a week later, I get a call from Patchwork, and they were saying to me, hey, we got your resume. We want to bring you in for an interview for an internship. And man, that was probably the most exciting day of my life, for real. Still to this day, that's just one of the times that I can remember, like, man, this is the beginning. This is, this might be real for real this time, right? So I was working up there in Kroger. You know, I had found me a little job, trying to make some money. Wasn't making no money, but I was supposed to go to work that day. That they called me to come for an interview. So y'all know what I did. I called in and told them, I ain't gonna make it today because you know, I got something I gotta do. So so I went to Patchwork, did the interview. Still not knowing if I'm gonna get it, you know, but so I left and they literally called me back probably about another 2 weeks later and told me I got the position. And man, again, I'm 20 years old at this time. From Tallahassee, wanted to be a rapper at one time, and I just want to do music. I'm watching BET and all this stuff. I just want to be in it, but I don't know how to be in it. And now I'm at the biggest studio, the most famous studio in Atlanta, and I'm working there. So that right there was very exciting for me. I started out as an intern, so that means I was working for free, you know what I mean? So still not making no money, but I'm in the building, you know what I'm saying? In the beginning, I'm seeing everybody come through the hallways. Usher, Jeezy, Gucci Man, Monica. I mean, anybody you could possibly think of. I'm seeing these people, and I'm just like, dang, I'm here. Like, you know, like this is just what I always dreamed of. So I was there, and the biggest thing was for me, okay, let me figure out how I can stay here. How would they keep me in this building? Because, you know, I'm an intern, I'm disposable, really. Like, if I don't do nothing, they probably kick me out, right? So I just tried to figure out how could I stay in there. And at the time, they didn't have no real internship program. It's just like you was just there. And if you want to be here, you can be here. And if you don't, you can go. But it was very competitive. And so I always wanted to be there because, you know, if I wasn't there, then that means this other intern's going to be there. And he might get the position over me. So I was literally there every day, probably from 3 p.m. in the afternoon to 5 a.m. in the morning. And anybody who knows about the studio knows that it don't sleep. Like, they just in there. Most artists, they want to record late night just for no reason, you know. And so I would be in there long hours, but I still had this Kroger job because my grandma always taught me, you know, to keep you something, you know, make sure you keep something to make you some money and stuff because the internship was free. So I'm working these late hours and I'm trying to go to work in Kroger in the morning. But I worked at a Kroger in Stone Mountain and the studio was in Midtown. So that's kind of a far distance, anybody know about Atlanta. And so I'm going to 5 in the morning at the studio. I gotta be at Kroger by 7 o'clock to go to work. And so I did that for a minute and I almost killed myself on that highway because I'm falling asleep. You know, it's just like, you know, and my grandmother would call me because she's worried, trying to check on me, make sure everything was all right. I lied every time she called me and told her it was okay, but it really wasn't okay. I was hungry, I was about to be homeless, everything, but I didn't want to have to come back home because I'm in Patchwork. Like, I can't leave this and come back home, right? You know, even though it's not really going well, I have hopes that it will. It's one day, right? So I'm doing all this stuff. I end up having to quit Kroger because I couldn't do both. I was literally gonna kill myself. And so I did that. Now I'm working totally for free. Now I'm making absolutely no money. What do? I'm in Atlanta. I ain't got no money. I don't really know nobody. So the little apartment that I did have that I figured out how to scheme up on, honestly, I lost it. And so I became homeless. So now I'm homeless up here. All I got is my little car and I'm working at Patchwork. And because I stayed there at Patchwork so many nights, I literally kind of lived there. Like, so I would just stay there, like, you know what I'm saying? And all I would eat is just probably like, they had these little trays they would have for the artists where they bake cookies and have little snacks and stuff. So that's kind of what I was eating. Or I eat whatever the clients left over from the session before. And so I was really, really skinny and just, you know, it was a hard time for me. But I stick it out. And one day I asked the studio owner, I said, man, because my engine blew up. Like, so I was doing a run one day, my engine blew up, I'm on the I-75, now I don't got no car, you know what I'm saying? So not only do I have a place to stay, I don't got a car. So now I'm on the bus, I'm on the train, but I'm one of those people that, you know, I'm gonna keep going regardless. I'm not gonna let anything stop me if I really want it. So if I gotta get on the bus, I gotta get on the train, that's what I gotta do. Now, working at the studio though, you kind of have to have a car because they want you to go on runs. They want you to go get stuff for people. So I had to talk to the studio manager and convince him to keep me there. And they did. You know, he actually loaned me $3,000 to get my engine fixed, which I felt at the time, I was like, man, like no employers don't normally just do that, right? You know what I'm saying? If your car breaks down, something happened, that's on you, you know what I mean? But one of the things I like about Patchwork is it's kind of like a family. And like I told you, it's a black-owned business. And like, honestly, fast forward to now, that's kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to start a studio, because I saw a great example of it, you know what I mean? And it really inspired me. And I know how they helped me. And so like now, anybody knows with the studio I got, I have an internship program. I help students, I help younger people and all that. And that's kind of my mission now because somebody did it for me, you know? But back then, you know, I convinced him to let me work at the desk, and so I did that in intern. And to fast forward a little bit, you know, they eventually, after 2 years of intern, working for free, I got hired. So that was another great day in my life, in my career. So now I'm an engineer at Patchwork. My first credit on any album was Lloyd. Y'all know Lloyd, right? So the album he made, Street Love, I actually have credits on that album for recording, and I got a gold plaque and all that great stuff for doing that. And so again, I was very excited for that, and that was my first credit. And from there on, you know, I got a chance to work, like I said, with a lot of other great artists, you know, like the Ushers, your Gucci Mans, your Jeezys, so many people, it's a long list. But I was very happy to be able to do that, and I learned a lot at Patchwork. But the biggest thing, like I said, I remember from that is just it being a real family atmosphere. And to this day, that's still like family to me. Like I could call the owner, or anytime I go to Atlanta, I stop by, and it's always a great experience for that, to feel like that family, especially in the music business, because you know the music business, you know, it's a lot of people know it's a dog-eat-dog business, right? You know, and people do whatever to get over or things like that. So to have some real genuine people that you know you can call on, get advice, or you know talk to is a great thing. You know, I'm proud to be a part of that lineage, if you would. But doing my thing up there, right? I've always had a entrepreneur spirit, and so even working at the studio, it was cool and everything, but I kind of wanted to have my own, you know what I mean? And again, I had great examples with them, and so I started Goldie Sound in Atlanta, and like I mentioned earlier, Goldie Sound, the name comes from my grandmother. Her name is Goldie Williams. Miss Goldie is what most people call her, and I thought, you know, Goldie, gold records, all that stuff kind of go together. But the main thing is, I feel like my grandmother saved my life, because as a young baby, she took me in. Like my mom left me when I didn't even know my mom till I was 11 years old. So and then my father wasn't in the picture, none of that. And so, but my grandmother took me in and raised me, you know, brought me up and all of that. And so this was kind of my way of trying to, you know, what's the word I want to use? Honor her. Thank you. Honor her, but also music meant a lot to me, and she meant a lot to me. So I put it all together so I'd never forget why I am who I am and things like that, right? So I started the studio in Atlanta, had a few different partners here and there, and we tried to make things work. And anybody knows that do business, sometimes working with other people, it's a little tough sometimes, because sometimes you may have different ideas or different ways of thinking about things. And so some of those ventures, it worked for a little bit, but it didn't work that long, right? And so I decided to come back to Tallahassee, but the real reason I decided to come back to Tallahassee was because, I'm gonna be very honest, I didn't want to come back to Tallahassee. anybody, if you leave here, you was kind of alluding to it earlier, Keith, like, you know, people leave, whatever, and stuff like that. I didn't want to come back to Tallahassee at all. I always told myself I'd never go back. But God has a way of working things, and sometimes what you want to do, you know, this might not be the destiny for you, you know what I mean? And sometimes it may be actually a blessing in disguise, which really it was for me. I was coming back to Tallahassee because, of course, this is where I'm from, and I met my wife here, and that's really what kept me coming back. I would come back almost every weekend just to see her, and eventually, of course, doing all that coming back, I had a child. So my first child I had, you know, here, and she was here, and my wife, she already had kids, you know, 2 kids, and so she wasn't coming to move to Atlanta or nothing like that. She was settled here, and so I couldn't convince her to do that. But I always knew if I ever had a child, I was going to be in that child's life. Why? Because I didn't have that growing up. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a mother, I didn't have a father. So I was like, and I had a son, so I thought it was really important that I be there. And so that was really the main reason I decided to come back, because I wanted to be in his life. But when I came back, I was distraught. You know, I was like, dang, how did I end up back here? You know, what am I gonna do? You know, I want to do music. There's not really a big music scene here, especially not like Atlanta, right? So how am I gonna make this work? You know, so first I just got regular jobs. You know, I got some regular jobs trying to make that work. Wasn't happy, you know, it wasn't doing it for me. And I can even remember my wife, she was working, and I became a stay-at-home dad, and I literally got my son in one arm, and I'm trying to take AT&T calls over the phone or whatever. I had a home job, and I just got to a point, I was like, man, this ain't gonna work. This ain't me. I can't do this no longer, right? And then, you know, and I'm one of those people that always believe that you gotta go for your dreams, you gotta go for your passions. That's what I did early on, you know, and I ain't gonna stop today, you know. So I said, you know what, I gotta get back to this music thing. My wife is very, very supportive, man. She very much so. I remember, because I didn't have much money. We didn't have much money, but I had told her we had a tax return, right? You know, when you got kids, you know, I had learned, you know, you might get a little sizable income tax return. So I said, all right, cool. We got a little money. And so I told my wife, I said, what do you think if I took this and I made a studio? You know what I mean? Now, most people, most women probably would say no, right? Because studio music, most people think that's a pipe dream. That ain't gonna probably work, you know what I'm saying? But she surprisingly was like, okay, you know, and we got like only $5,000 return. And I took that whole $5,000 and I invested it in a studio. And my first studio was in Railroad Square. And I just went head first. I didn't know if it was gonna work or if it wasn't gonna work. I just said, this gotta be better than me working at a regular job. And so I still had some clients from Atlanta that I would do work for. So the way I told myself is, worst case scenario, if nobody ever shows up, at least I still got a place I can work out of and do my thing. And luckily, it wasn't really expensive back then in Railroad Square, so I was able to kind of, you know, finagle it. But surprisingly, the moment I opened my doors, I got so much support. So many people was coming through, and I was just like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. I couldn't imagine that I'd be able to do this here in Tallahassee. Like, I just didn't think I could. You know, within the first year, I got people like Kodak Black come to the studio. You know, I had other people like Asher Roth, which was a rapper back in the day. And so all this stuff is happening, and now this is like motivating me really to like, maybe, you know, maybe this could be something here in Tallahassee. Maybe I'm here for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to do this here, you know what I'm saying? And so it just kept going well. Everything that I made, all the money I made, I would invest back into the studio. And I was working at, actually, when I came back here, I did end up getting a job at Palmer Monroe Teen Center. Anybody know about Palmer Monroe? Okay, so Palmer Monroe has a studio in there. I think they still got a recording studio in there. Actually, it was Glenn Jr. who told me about Palmer Monroe. He was like, hey man, I know you back here in Tallahassee, and you know, I know you probably want to record and all that. I got this job and I'm finna leave here at Palmer Monroe. Basically, it's a studio where you can teach kids how to record and all of that. And I know it's not Atlanta, it's not Patchwork, but it's a studio, you know. And so I said, man, you know what? This better than anything else I could find around here. So yeah, I'll do it. So I started actually working there first. So I was working with kids and working in the studio, teaching them how to record and that type of thing. And honestly, that's where I really felt like I was brought back here, because I had never worked with kids before, but I realized at that time that like really I took a liking to a lot of those kids, and I really felt like, you know, I saw how they were learning, how excited they was about it, and it really encouraged me to be like, man, you know what? Let me stop worrying about not being in Tallahassee. Let me go ahead and settle here and see what I could really do here. Like, you know, let me not, because every day I used to be like, I'm trying to figure out how to get back to Atlanta. But, you know, I really decided, I said, man, I think I'm here for a reason. And so when I started the studio, I was still working at Palmer Monroe. And the studio got so good, and we started doing well, that I was able to quit Palmer Monroe, you know. But I brought a lot of those kids that I was teaching over there over to the studio, and that's how I really started my first internship program. And a lot of those kids became my engineers, or they became, you know, artists, and still to this day, I support and push and teach as much as I can. And so, you know, started with real humble beginnings in Railroad Square. After 2 years, we moved over to where we're at now, Mayhem. And that was like almost 8 years ago. You know, well, no, a little more than 8 years ago. And so I'm definitely, I feel really blessed and thankful to be able to last this long, especially in this type of space, you know what I mean? Audio and music. A lot of people, like I said, don't think that that's a space that is really valuable, like you can really make money. But I would tell you that this is all I do. I don't do nothing else. This is not a side gig. This is all I do. Now I have a full staff. I'm able to take care of my family from doing this. I live a really pretty good life, you know. I'm able to do what I want to do when I want to do, because I have a studio manager, I got engineers on staff, and interns. And so for me to be able to build this thing up just from, I always think back when I was like 15, just trying to do this stuff. Like I said, it's a real blessing. I'm so thankful. And I want to encourage anybody who has dreams, no matter what things may look like, to still go for those dreams. Again, I went through homelessness. I even went to jail a few times, not for criminal stuff, but just because my license was suspended, or, you know, expired tag, because I didn't have no money to get, you know, stuff right, you know. So I went through all of these things chasing this dream, but now all of it was worth it. I wouldn't take any of it back, because it's put me where I'm at now. And the biggest thing that I'm thankful now is just to help those other people that got dreams.